David Lynch, the American filmmaker whose works include the surrealist cult classics Mulholland Drive and Twin Peaks, has died aged 78. Lynch's death was announced on his official Facebook page by his family on Thursday. "There's a big hole in the world now that he's no longer with us," the post said. "But, as he would say, keep your eye on the donut and not on the hole. It's a beautiful day with golden sunshine and blue skies all the way." Lynch revealed in August last year he was battling emphysema, a chronic lung disease, from many years of smoking. Considered by many a maverick filmmaker, he received 3 Best Director Oscar nominations throughout his career for his work on Blue Velvet, The Elephant Man, and Mulholland Drive. Naomi Watts, who starred in Mulholland Drive, said, "My heart is broken. My buddy Dave. The world will not be the same without him," the British-born actress wrote on Instagram. "His creative mentorship was truly powerful. He put me on the map, the world I'd been trying to break into for 10+ years, flunking auditions left and right," she added. "It wasn't just his art that impacted me. His wisdom, humor, and love gave me a special sense of belief in myself I'd never accessed before." His last major project was Twin Peaks: The Return, which was broadcast in 2017, and continued the TV series that ran for 2 seasons in the early 1990s. David was in tune with the universe and his own imagination on a level that seemed to be the best version of human. Actor Kyle MacLachlan, who starred in many of Lynch's projects including Twin Peaks, wrote in tribute, "He was not interested in answers because he understood that questions are the drive that make us who we are," describing Lynch as an enigmatic and intuitive man with a creative ocean bursting forth inside of him. MacLachlan added, "My world is that much fuller because I knew him and that much emptier now that he's gone." Laura Flynn Boyle, who played Donna Hayward on the show, described him as the true Willy Wonka of filmmaking. "I feel like I got the golden ticket getting a chance to work with him. He will be greatly missed." Lynch won the prestigious Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival for Wild at Heart in 1990. Patricia Arquette, who starred in Lynch's 1997 neo-noir thriller Lost Highway, told SiriusXM's Radio Andy, "There's nobody like him." The star of that film, Nicolas Cage, told the BBC World Service's NewsHour program he was one of the main reasons he fell in love with cinema. "I used to see his movie Eraserhead in Santa Monica," he said. "He's largely instrumental for why I got into filmmaking. He was one of a kind. He can't be replaced." Fellow film director Steven Spielberg said he was a singular, visionary dreamer who directed films that felt handmade. "The world is going to miss such an original and unique voice," he added in a statement to Variety. Director Ron Howard called him a gracious man and fearless artist who followed his heart and soul, proved that radical experimentation could yield unforgettable cinema. Musician Moby, for whom Lynch directed the video for Shot in the Back of the Head, said he was just heartbroken. Many of Lynch's films were known for their surrealist, dreamlike quality. Eraserhead, his first major release in 1977, was filled with dark, disturbing imagery. While his imagination clearly has an eye for the viscerally potent, this remains an unremarkable feat by his later standards, a BBC reviewer said of the film in 2001. In a May 2024 interview with BBC Radio 3's Sound of Cinema, Lynch described the process of working with late composer Angelo Badalamenti, who designed many of the soundscapes that accompanied his vision. "And then I say, no, that's still too fast. It's not dark enough. It's not heavy and foreboding enough," Lynch recalled. His body of work was recognized at the Oscars in 2020 when he was given an honorary Academy Award. The director said last year that, despite his emphysema diagnosis, he was in excellent shape and would never retire. He added the diagnosis was the price to pay for his smoking habit. But his condition deteriorated within months. In a November interview with People magazine, he said he needed oxygen to walk. Born in Missoula, Montana, Lynch first began a career in painting before switching to making short films during the 1960s. "There's a sort of evil out there," says Sheriff Truman in an episode of David Lynch's iconic TV series, Twin Peaks. "That line gets to the heart of the work of the filmmaker," whose family announced his death January 16, 2025. Lynch's films and TV series reflected the dark, ominous, often bizarre underbelly of American culture, one increasingly out of the shadows today. As someone who teaches film noir, I often think about the ways American cinema holds up a mirror to society. Lynch was a master at this. Many of Lynch's films, like 1980's IXS, Blue Velvet, and 1997's Lost Highway, can be unsparing and graphic, with imagery that was described by critics as disturbing and all chaos upon their release. But beyond those bewildering effects, Lynch was onto something. His images of corruption, violence, and toxic masculinity ring all too familiar in America today. Take Blue Velvet. The film focuses on a naive college student, Jeffrey Beaumont, whose idyllic suburban life, framed with white picket fences, is turned inside out when he finds a human ear on the edge of a road. This grisly discovery draws him into the orbit of a violent sociopath, Frank Booth, and an alluring lounge singer named Dorothy Valance, whom Booth sadistically torments while holding her child and husband, whose ear, it turns out, was the one Beaumont had found hostage. Beaumont nonetheless finds himself perversely attracted to Valance and descends deeper into the shadowy world lurking beneath his hometown. A world of smoke-filled bars and drug dens frequented by Booth and an array of freakish characters, including pimps, addicts, and a corrupt detective. Booth's haunting line, "Now it's dark," serves as a potent refrain. The corruption, perversion, and violence depicted in Blue Velvet are indeed extreme. But the acts Booth perpetrates also recall the stories of sexual abuse that have emerged from organizations including the Catholic Church and the Boy Scouts. As the exposure of such crimes continue to pile up, they become less an aberration but a dire warning of something that's deeply ingrained in our culture. These evils are sensational and appalling, and there's an impulse to perceive them as existing outside of our realities, perpetrated by people who aren't like us. What Twin Peaks, Lynch's hit TV series, and Blue Velvet do so effectively is tell viewers that those hidden worlds where venality and cruelty reside can be found just around the corner, in places that we might see but tend to ignore. And then there are the uncanny and eerie worlds depicted in Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive. The characters in those searing films seem to live in parallel realities governed by good and evil. Lost Highway begins with a jazz musician, Fred Madison, being convicted of killing his wife. He claims, however, to have no memory of the crime. Exploring the theme of alternate worlds, Lynch thrusts Madison into an illusory realm inhabited by killers, drug dealers, and pornographers by merging his identity into that of young mechanic named Pete Dayton. In doing so, Lynch combines the worlds of normality and perversity into one. In the 1990s, artists like Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails, whose music is included on the official soundtrack of Lost Highway, also confronted audiences with images of decadence and social decay, which were inspired by his own disturbing experiences in Hollywood and the music industry. These dark themes have since been personified in rich and powerful men like Sean Diddy Combs, Bill Cosby, and Jeffrey Epstein who, for years, skated along the surface of high society with their perversions hidden from the public. In his 2001 film, Mulholland Drive, Lynch turns his attention to Hollywood and the wretchedness that seems baked into its very nature. A wide-eyed and innocent aspiring actress named Betty Elms arrives in Los Angeles with visions of stardom. Her struggle to achieve success, one that ends in depression and death, is certainly tragic. But it's also not very surprising, given that she was trying to make it in a corrupt system that all too often bestows its rewards on the undeserving, or those who are willing to compromise their morals. As with so many who go to Hollywood with big dreams only to find that fame is beyond their reach, Elms is unprepared for an industry so consumed with exploitation and corruption. Her fate mimics that of the women who, desperate for stardom, ended up falling into the trap set by Harvey Weinstein. Lynch's death comes at a time when America seems to be hurtling toward an ever darker future. Perhaps it's one foretold by politicians turning a deaf ear to acts of sexual assault, tolerating the vilification of victims, or even bragging that they can get away with murder. Lynch's vital body of work warns that the cruelty of such people isn't really what we should fear most. It is, instead, those who laugh, cheer, or simply turn away, faint responses that enable and empower such behaviors, giving them an acceptable place in the world. When Lynch's films were first released, they often appeared as bizarre, funhouse mirror reflections of society. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.